Sydney Catholic Schools is proud to present So You Want to Be a Professional Athlete.
I'm Kevin Caraher, Director of Education and Research at Sydney Catholic Schools. And with me today recording on Gadigal land is our student co-host Tane from De La Salle College in Caringbah. So before we get into the episode for today, Tane, can you tell me about what school you're from
I got a De La Salle Catholic College, Caringbah.
and why do you love De La Caringbah?
I love our college nestled in the Southern Shire because a lot of the teachers go above and beyond for all the students, especially for myself. We had a difficult decision to choose of 2 years ago, where we had the opportunity to either stay at the college and it'd be the first senior cohort through the college, or the other option was to go to Aloysius down the road. Um, there was a lot of kids that chose to leave, but then a lot of kids also chose to stay. And I was one of the kids that chose to stay. And the three reasons why I chose to stay was because obviously the teachers. I live close to the school, so it's a 2-minute walk, pretty easy for me.
Yep.
And then the facilities as well. And also my brother was coming to the college starting this year in 2025.
Yeah, great. And I know you love your sport. What sparked your interest in sport?
Originally, so my family's from New Zealand, right? So I originally did rugby until I was 10 years old. And then I switched over to soccer. So playing football for the local club of Lilliput Football Club. I'm also a goalkeeper, so that's pretty much where the passion started to be a goalkeeper. I'm also involved with the Pararoos. So the Pararoos is an organisation within Football Australia that it's pretty much a national team for people with acquired brain injury or cerebral palsy. So I have cerebral palsy. I was born and I had a stroke. So I was diagnosed with right side hemiplegia. Then it flipped over to left and right side. I'm not severely impacted, which is great for me to be versatile, especially within all the sports that I love. So that pathway is what I want to pursue through football, and especially with the Pararoos coming up soon, with the Asian Cup and World Cup qualifiers, which is something that I really want to be in pretty much. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to talking about that today. I know you're in year 12. What are your plans after school?
So after school, I want to be a project manager. So currently, I'm doing my apprenticeship in carpentry and construction. That consists of 3 days at school, 1 day at TAFE, and then 1 day at work. So with that component, I'm able to come out with at the end of my HSC with my first year of my apprenticeship chopped off. So that pretty much means I only have 3 years after my schooling, which is really good because I wanted to stay in school and not drop out in year 10.
Yep.
So schools provided a lot of opportunities for me, and that's pretty much where I want to go through after school.
That's a great shout out for De La Caringbah. They do a great job down there. We've got a very exciting guest today. Could you introduce our wonderful guest for us?
When the pressure's on, our guest today doesn't just stand tall. He wiggles his way to victory. A rock-solid keeper for Sydney FC and the Socceroos. He's been a key player in multiple A-League championships, proving time and time again that he's got safe hands and steady nerves. However, it was in the 2022 World Cup qualifiers that he truly saved the day. Subbed on for penalties, he shook up Peru with his now iconic grey wiggle dance, pulling off the match-winning save that sent Australia to the World Cup. Off the pitch, he's just as inspiring. Balancing his football career with a passion of teaching, proving that whether in the classroom or in the 6-yard box, he's always ready to stand up and deliver.
So please give a very warm welcome to the legendary Andrew Redmayne. Andrew, g'day.
G'day, thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much for joining us. Shall we kick off with some burning questions? Let's go for it. So every professional athlete has a journey. We're interested in your journey and probably that moment where you knew that football wasn't just a game for you, that, there was a pathway in it. What was that?
Well, that got to me quite later than a lot of other players. It wasn't until I actually moved up to Brisbane that I actually saw it as a pathway. Before that, I just saw it as a kick around with mates, even through AIS. Before that, NSWIS, then AIS, and then when I was at Central Coast, I more or less just saw it as a kick around with mates. And then I was fortunate enough to sign for Brisbane Roar, and that's where Dad finally said, "Well, all right, mate, you go make a career of this." And to this day, I've been, I guess, up and down the East Coast playing football. So it's I've been quite blessed, but it wasn't till later, which so would have been 19, 20 when that happened. So yeah.
So you've arrived at the mighty Sydney FC. As local lads, I'm sure, that's probably the pinnacle of the Australian football scene. What's been the biggest challenges and lessons along the way in getting to Sydney where you are now?
Everything's kind of a lesson, if that makes sense. Football, whether you win or lose, there's always things that you can do better and takeaways. So I think at Sydney FC, the biggest thing here is everyone wants to beat you. So every game you have to be on your game because teams rise when they play Sydney FC. So you ultimately have to be on your game every single week because Sydney FC is the one scout that teams will look for every single season. So it's tough in a regard, but it's also good because you know that you have to perform every time you step on the pitch, and I think in a way that holds you in good stead.
Brings out the best in you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tane?
Okay, so we'll jump to the 2022 World Cup qualifier against Peru. So I just want some insight into what your mind was thinking before you jumped into that penalty shootout.
It was pretty laser focus in a way, and a part of me didn't really acknowledge that I was in that kind of moment. It was just I've often said that camp, the squad just went to a whole nother level. I mean, it was such a tight-knit group that had been working together for so long that when we came to that camp, yes, we had fun and we had some banter and stuff, but when we were on the pitch, everyone was bang on and everyone got their preparations spot on. And I just remember going onto the field and I just knew that I've just been trusted with a job and I just need to execute that one job because we've put a hell of a lot of work into this and over the 4 years, but it kind of almost comes down to me just executing a job, and that's where my brain was at, just focusing on the execution of my little 1%ers, I guess.
100%, you got that job right. So how do you stay mentally strong under pressure, especially in like those instances and then also through high pressure events?
Yeah, good question. I think just focusing on the process. In a big game where I'm a bit nervous, I always just refer back to the warm-up, if that makes sense. So I just always think to myself, well, I got the warm-up. I know exactly what I'm doing in the warm-up. I've done the same warm-up every time I've played for Sydney FC. So I've done the same warm-up 250 times. And it's just such a calming kind of thing where you just focus on the process as opposed to anything future or upcoming, I guess.
I was watching a bit of a highlights reel this morning, Andrew, and it reminded me actually of that mental rehearsal and that, working the process and the training. And I was thinking about my kids out in the backyard or on the trampoline and in parks and, imagining themselves scoring the match-winning goal or try or save, thinking about that mental rehearsal as they go through and matching it up with the hard work that I know goes into it. There's a lot to be said for that, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it can be positive and negative. I've certainly played in games where I've overthought about the game and you almost kind of burn yourself out mentally. But obviously, positive reinforcement and positive visualization is, it's almost integral in today's game.
Yeah. So I just want a bit of insight into what it is to be obviously a professional athlete and especially in football, within Australia. What does that look like for you through a day-to-day process?
Hard work. I guess it boils down to that. I've always said I don't think I'm the most naturally talented goalkeeper out there, but I'd like to think I worked extremely hard to get where I am and to have done what I've done. And ticking off all those little 1%ers here and there are something that I kind of, I guess, fall back on. But day to day, I do all my work here. So when I'm leave the building. I'm just dedicated as a father away from here, and I think that's one of the biggest relaxers, if that makes sense, or mental distractions, because when you are in such a high pressure environment, you do need that kind of valve or switch to turn off when you are away from the game.
Mm. I think a lot the kids in our schools who are, like you said, naturally talented footballers and swimmers and dancers and those sorts of things, it's really natural to face setbacks along the way. And for those kids who have that natural talent, certainly have the effort. Have you got advice for them about how to push through those moments of, injury and missing out on selection and those natural setbacks that happen along the way, to continue to pursue their passion?
Yeah, I think if you look holistically, what's what's missing, 3 months per se, what's missing 1 or 2 sessions here and there for an injury or a knock or something like that. It's in the big scheme of things, I don't think it's detrimental. I know the mindset that kids and young athletes have is they want to compete in everything, but at the end of the day, what's 1 or 2 sessions to get your body right to spring forward. But in terms of setbacks, everyone has setbacks. It's hard to tell a young child that's had a setback not to focus on it or not to worry about it. But I mean, every kid has setbacks. I had a chat with one of the young goalkeepers here. He was building pressure on himself for like a youth international kind of tournament at the time, but he said, "This is my last chance to get in the national team set up and spring myself forward." And you look at Emiliano Martinez, Argentina's goalkeeper. He never played in Argentina's youth national setup, so he didn't play for 18s, 20s, 23s, anything like that. He's straight in, and now he's the best goalkeeper in the world. But he never had. So I guess everyone has their own journey, and a setback can just be seen as a crossroads in a journey if it sends you on a good place to go forward again.
And I think it's the importance of alternative pathways. I was fascinated and delighted to read in preparation, Andrew, you've got a bit of a side hustle in education, and during the 22 campaign, actually finished off your teaching degree.
Yeah, I actually got my degree 10 days before the Peru game. So, it's been a long slog. About 9.5 years it's been to secure a degree. And I mean, talk about setbacks. I just got told that degree is not worth much. So I need to go and do a master's now to actually qualify to get in a classroom. So I'm a bit disappointed about that, but at the same time, it's a like I said before, it's a welcome distraction away from football and somewhere we can channel time and energy, because I think another challenge we have in Australia is it's such a vast country is time on planes and buses and travel. It's kind of useless time. So I've spent a lot of time on planes and buses and away trips, knocking out a bit of study, which has proved like I said another avenue that I can kind of put some. It's just a welcome kind of valve and switch that you can channel energy into away from football.
I know Sydney Catholic Schools and Sydney FC have an amazing partnership, actually. So there's a lot of work that we do with the organisation in supporting our schools with our sports program. I mean, there's huge opportunities. I think the Masters notwithstanding, there's definitely some work with us, Andrew, if you're up for it. How does those types of partnerships, or the partnership that we have with Sydney FC, how do they have the potential to shape a young athlete's career? What's the relationship between professional sporting organisations and school systems to make sure that young kids like Tane here are nurtured in the right kind of way?
Yeah, I mean, education and elite sport are kind of hand in hand. We're what's the word? We're like perennial students. We're always looking to better ourselves, and looking for ways and take on knowledge and just constantly trying to better yourself and adhere to a structure of a team sport. So I think schooling and professional sport have so many parallels, I guess, in a way. So I think they go hand in hand, and I think partnerships with professional clubs and schools alike, they can really accelerate the growth not only of the students, but I think it gives back to the players as well, because again, especially here in Australia, there's youth mentality. So I think if you build strong partnerships there, then kids will step into this environment here in elite sport with a better connection to a club, and it only holds you in better stead, I guess.
Yeah, I know reciprocally for schools, the physical development of the person's really important for us as well. So the diversity of opportunities to work with, professionals and experts, only adds to the, what we do as schools. So it definitely works both ways. When you were at school, how did that experience of your school help, do you think, in your journey to professional sport?
Oh, yeah, my school was interesting. At Lisero High on the Central Coast, football wasn't overly recognised. We were kind of split between the real split was league and union. Not really many footballers, even less AFLers, and that was about it. The main split in our school was the divide between surfers and skaters on the Central Coast back then. But my year 12, even earlier, years 10 onwards, I had to leave a subject early to get a couple of trains and a bus out to like Plumpton out here for N-Swiss training. So schooling was affected in that regard. And then at Central Coast, I ended up having to miss 2 days a week through that. But I think the school understood my drive in a way to continue to drive in the sporting era. But at the same way, they were fully supportive and were flexible in the hours and supporting me with my homework and all that kind of jazz as well. So I think, collaboration between schools and sporting clubs are vital if we're going to allow our kids to not only pursue sport, but pursue it in a safe way, if that makes sense. Because,
it does, yeah.
Only a small percentage of athletes out there make it to the level that's required, kind of thing. And but kids also need something to fall back on, and education something that I'm big on. I'm big on pushing that through, the Players Association here, and I always say to any young boy coming through, you need to keep your options open and whatnot. So I'm big on the education front.
Yeah. So looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently when you were rising up to become a professional athlete, especially coming from school and moving into that transition to out of school?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would have done differently to be able to more so further better yourself through that? Or
I've said a lot of times, and I say with Alex Wilkinson here as well, club legend, I wish I studied earlier. I wish I started my uni earlier. I wish I did it as soon as I walked away from school. So, like I said, you need something to fall back on. And if I did start earlier, I'd have that master's by now and I'd be able to walk into a classroom, but I don't. I wish I'd kept that avenue open earlier.
So do you have any tips to students specifically within the school system being able to balance sporting outside of school as well as studies within school?
Yeah, just tick it off slowly, I think. Allocate an hour here and there. It doesn't have to be, all right, I'm going to do all of this right here or all of this right now, or I'm going to consume a whole day by doing this. Just tick it off in little bits. You think of a football session being an hour long, it's 4% of your day, it's not much. But if you think of a study period or something being an hour long, again, it's only 4% of your day. So, consume things in small bites, and I think it'll sink in a lot better.
Last question from me.
Yep.
Within my year group, right? So
Yep.
we've been talking about legacy and through leadership through the college, and then how we use that legacy to further better students within the college and the greater college community. So we're the first graduating class of Year 12 through my college. Building upon this, looking back on your career so far, what do you hope to leave behind as a legacy, and what that legacy will look like being within the Football Australia pathway system and further community of outreach?
Wow, big question. I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately. My legacy, I want to be known more than just the grey wiggle. I don't want to be pinned down by one moment in a hell of a journey. But I think above all that, I think having a primary teaching degree, I want to be known to help young players, help kids develop. So I want to, I think the younger goalkeepers here, the younger players here, I'd like to think that I'm leaving a legacy of quality, but also a level that, not a level, but a standard that I think is required in professional football. And I'm someone who, I'm not a vocal leader. I'm more just lead by example. So I'd like to think that some of the young boys have consumed some of that and will carry that on in terms of a legacy. In terms of a footballing legacy, I'd like to think I've made some great connections, but also imparted some of my knowledge to the ones coming through.
Great. Andrew, we have a fast, quick fire round coming at you now.
Yep.
Tane's going to shoot some questions off. We want speedy responses straight
Okay.
off the top of your head. Over to you,
Yep.
Tane.
Welcome to segment 2. This or that. So, saving a penalty with your hands or feet.
Hands.
Home game atmosphere or the thrill of an away game.
Home game.
Speed training or strength training.
Strength.
This is probably going to be a bit of a controversial one. Weet-Bix or Milo.
Oh, Weet-Bix.
Warm weather or cooler conditions.
Cold.
Cold. Winning a championship or setting a personal best.
Championship.
Grass or synthetic.
Grass.
Extra time drama or penalty shootout heroics.
Penalty.
Gianluigi Buffon or Oliver Kahn?
Oh, big one. I'll go Buffon.
Talk me through the difference.
Italian versus German. Very stock Italian goalkeeper, very stock German goalkeeper. Kahn probably had a shorter career. Buffon achieved everything and more. So I'd say Buffon purely based on his resume.
Tough call. There you go. Okay.
So we'll move on to segment 3. This is just a bit of advice towards any students within our Catholic school system.
Yep.
Any advice that you may have for anyone, or pretty much the broader community of Sydney Catholic schools and then within also the college's system.
Yep.
What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Oh, probably simply you do you. Whether that be training or even like food or music pre-match, just you do you. If you want more of something or less of something, you have that conversation with your coach and you get that done. Just be open and honest, but stick true to yourself.
So out to aspiring athletes, what advice do you have for them specifically?
Just enjoy it. If you enjoy it, then things will happen. And that's probably how I speak, talking about myself. Like I said at the start, I kind of almost fell into the profession. I just saw it as a kick around with mates, and I've ended up here. So, but I've I've always, well, I can't say I've always enjoyed it, but I've always held just the key value of just keep enjoying training, enjoying games, and that's probably when I play my best football, is when I play with a bit of a smile and a joke here and there on the pitch.
That's great advice. Thanks so much for joining us today, Andrew.
No, thanks for having me on.
That's been a terrific conversation, and that advice at the end, I think, stitched it up for me. I think that's going to be really helpful to the students of ours that are listening.
100%.
So make sure to visit Sydney Catholic School's social media channels to stay up to date on all of our episodes as they're released. To discover the opportunities Sydney Catholic Schools provides in sport, visit our website at www.sydcatholicschools.nsw.edu.au.